right, everyone. Welcome to the Ravit Show. First off, Happy New Year. We are already in 2023, and can't believe it's already my first show for the year, and super excited because it is with none other than Carly Taylor. She works at Activision. I'll definitely bring her on, but before doing that, obviously, I wanted to thank everyone for supporting the Ravit Show in 2022. It was such a huge success and can't wait to see how 2023 turns out. And we have a many of those interesting topics, tools, data, and analytics that we'll be talking about. So don't hesitate. But today we'll be discussing a lot of things with Carly Taylor. We'll be discussing about how to break into data science, the data trends in 2023, gaming, machine learning, and much more. So feel free to bring in your questions, and you can ask anything around breaking into data science trends. I'm super excited. So without any further ado, let's have Carly here. Hey, Carly, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Hey, Ravit. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. And I was just letting the folks know about what we'll be discussing today. One is the biggest question which we always get, I'm sure about that, which is how to break into data science. And I'm sure you get it on a daily basis. You've had like such an amazing background, how you moved into data science. So I'm sure folks are eager to learn more about it. I'll hand it over to you and please introduce yourself. Please tell us about how you came into data science. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And hey, everyone, thanks for joining in today. I'm super excited to be here. For those of you who don't know me or follow me, my name is Carly. I started my LinkedIn journey about a year and a half ago. I was a chemist by trade before I moved into data science. So anyone in the comments who's trying to transition away from a different career, I see you, I'm here for you. But yeah, started my career in chemistry, decided to do the break into data science thing. And now I work my dream job in gaming, which is like
Wow.
something I never thought would happen. So I'm super, super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Do you also play games a lot?
I do, yes. It was really funny when I saw the job posted at Activision to work on Call of Duty. I had actually been on a probably 3-month Warzone binge because it was
Mhm.
the middle of the pandemic and there was nothing else to do except play video games. And I was
Okay.
laughing with my friends saying, wouldn't it be funny if I got this job working on this game that we can't stop playing?
Uh, yeah, and it's obviously kind of you mentioned about you coming from chemistry and then obviously turning out to be a data scientist. There are actually a few of the folks who joining in were are chemistry grads, like one from YouTube, Kingslayer,
Hey, Kingslayer!
uh, and Massimo here is a chemist too. So
Hey, Massimo!
looks like a lot of chemists are actually good with I would say the data science bit. So that's awesome. But Kali, obviously, the other big questions as we have entered in 2023, I would love to learn more about what are your first thoughts about the data science as a field, and who and where do you first of all see it going?
Yes. So I think 2023 is going to be a super exciting year for data science. The first thing that I'm seeing is a little bit more of probably an organizational opportunity. I follow Ben Vashishta. If you follow him as well, he's
Mm,
amazing. He's
yeah.
talking recently about the rise of the data science leader. And how tech organizations tend to not be the best at finding good leadership, right? If you're technically able, you end up getting promoted through the ranks. And I think we're realizing that that's not a sustainable model, right? We need people who understand the
Right.
technicalities, but are also good at leading people and good people managers. And so anyone in the audience with those soft skills, keep them coming, right? I think that there is
Yeah.
going to be a future for you to flourish where you can use your leadership skills and marry that with your technical skills and have an awesome, awesome career. I also have been talking a little bit to Ben Rogojan, aka the
Yep.
Seattle data guy. He's amazing. He's been talking a lot recently about how roles will become even more specialized in data science.
Exactly.
So I think that that's extremely important for anyone who's looking to break into the field. The idea of having a super wide breadth of knowledge is not really sustainable anymore as the field continues to grow. And so really honing your skills more into a T shape where you can find your niche and your specialty and really drill down, I think is going to be even more important in 2023. And finally, I'd say data storytelling. We've
Wow.
seen the rise of the business analyst and the data analyst like making a comeback because I think some data scientists probably lack a little bit of that data storytelling ability. And I think
Mm.
candidates who can not only understand their data, but tell a good story with their data and who are able to communicate are going to be killing it in 2023.
Oh, yes. I think those are definitely great points there. Talking about data storytelling, talk about, more roles being specialized. There would be certain roles which would come up in, the field would grow massively in
Yes.
2023. So for sure, I'm it resonates very well. We have a lot of questions coming here. To be honest, Carly, I have some important questions from Kate, and let's take this one from Kate Strachny. Hey, Kate, nice to see you here. So, Kate has a question. Can you recommend any resources or strategies for networking and building a professional network in the data science industry? Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a great, great question, Kate. I think that in your question is actually a great piece of advice, which is to break into data science, you need to be networking and building that
Networking.
professional network. I think that that's just like so, so, so critical. We're coming to you on YouTube and on LinkedIn. I think that
Yeah.
there are so many opportunities now for people to put themselves out there and to try to build a network, and the first step is just doing it. Honestly, I don't even have like a crazy strategy. I think it's just getting yourself out there, getting over that imposter syndrome, making that piece of content, writing that post you've been thinking about, reaching out to that person that you admire and just drop them a note that you love what they're doing. And like
Right.
taking that first step is always the hardest because it feels awkward. But once you do it, I promise, I know from experience, it gets a lot easier.
Exactly. It's like an icebreaker that you need to, obviously get into. And I agree totally. Networking and building that network kind of is very important when you are in this field because there's so much that you could explore. You can
Yes.
learn from people and the experiences that they have. And then there are so many creators out there who are actually you yourself, Carly, you are sharing about your experiences, what you faced earlier in your career, even talking about the salary
Yeah.
transparency. You've been out there, head to head. You've been like, yeah, let's be transparent about it, and you've been, an inspiration for a lot of people out there who have been doing that.
Oh, thank
So
you.
good stuff there. Let's go on to another interesting question. So we have a lot of questions. Mike is here. Mike Nash has joined us. So nice to see you, Mike. Given potential slowdown the economy and possible reduction of teams, how can someone address this when breaking in data science? Very interesting.
That's a super interesting question. There's no like kind way to put this. For junior
Hmm.
data scientists and for people breaking into the industry, it's not getting any easier in the next year. Like you said, the economy is going to be slowing down. Teams are going to be probably downsizing. I will say that I do see some opportunities for things to learn in the new year. One big thing that sticks out to me is systems design and operational efficiency, right? Like as the economy slows down, companies have to be really wise about how they're spending their money and how if they're making the most of what they have, right? We've seen just recently with Southwest, right? Bad systems design can bring your entire company down. So if there's anywhere that
Exactly.
companies I think are going to be investing in, it's going to be that area. So if I were trying to break into data science right now, I would probably tailor my resume with items about how I helped with operational efficiency. I helped someone save money. Any insights that you can derive that are going to help a company be more efficient and make the most of the limited dollars that they want to spend, I think is going to be a
Yes.
good way to kind of sell yourself as someone who's mindful that, it's not like cash isn't growing on trees anymore like it used to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like a great tip for sure, Carly. Where we know in 2023 and even in 2020, late 2022, we realized that companies now want to be tight on the budget. They want to make sure that they have like the best resources, and not only just
Yes.
that, they want to make sure that they are utilizing the skills in a way which will help them grow and just get out of the economic downturn. So
Hmm.
all kind of makes sense. Just one follow-up question that I had from Mike's question was, recently I actually read an article from, if I'm not wrong, from Stanford scholar, Professor Jeffrey, and he mentioned about, this could be a copycat behavior as well from companies. And it could be a very controversial topic altogether, where there are a lot of companies who mention about, you know this is about the overhiring that was done during the pandemic, but now
Hmm.
things are kind of correcting, and that's one of the reasons. But do you also think this could be a good copycat behavior, or a good chance for a lot of companies to also just correct on the valuation bait, and all the other things as well?
I would say yes. From what we've seen in the stock market, I would say that companies are
Mhm.
being rewarded for showing that they're willing to tighten their belts, right? Like there doesn't have to be necessarily an issue, but CEOs are signaling that, they're willing to make labor force reductions. They're willing to pull back on some of their lofty ambitions for 2023. And I think if the market with the stock price is going to reward that behavior, you're going to see more of it, right? You're just going to see more people kind of positioning themselves as being fiscally responsible, not building the big team that they maybe wanted to, maybe lowering their headcount aspirations for the year in order to make their investors happy. So I definitely think that there's some sort of cycle there that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that, the behavior that gets rewarded is the behavior that people do.
That's very true. I think I couldn't agree more. That's so true. And for those actually, because I was just reading that article and I have it bookmarked, I've actually shared the link of the
Oh,
article as well.
awesome.
So folks can
Super
actually go
helpful.
and learn more about it and see what I was actually talking about. But coming back, obviously, talking about breaking into data science and just getting started in that region, we have another question here from Jennifer. Very interesting question. What type of data project should someone work on portfolio wise, with the intent to move into the gaming industry in order to stand out from other candidates who have prior industry experience and know better than you, Carly? So I'm kind of curious as well. Thanks, Jennifer, for putting that out.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. That's an amazing question. So, I will say that the gaming industry is really not that different from other like big tech companies in the problems that they face, right? Like there
Hmm.
is a user acquisition funnel, there are problems with churn. And
Right.
so, I guess I'll hit on some areas of data science that I see used in gaming. And then you can make the idea of if you want to do a project in your portfolio kind of tailored to that, this is what I would see. So first and foremost, an area that's kind of been in vogue for a while, might be pulling back a little bit,
Hmm.
but is still interesting to people, is definitely deep learning. I
Hmm.
do see an opportunity in gaming to use deep learning to build diffusion models to help with content generation, right? Anything you
Right.
see that needs to be created for a player, any sort of art, there is definitely an area to help with that. Or in-game AI, right? Like bots that play the game. Definitely something you can help with. And that leads me into the idea of reinforcement learning as well. I think there's a
Right.
huge opportunity for reinforcement learning. It's already been used heavily, to play games like Dota and StarCraft. But I do think that all games can benefit from having, someone at the company who's an RL expert who understands, maybe you want to do some playability on a test map, right? And you want to build some bots that are going to run through it. A lot of problems that would take a lot of people and a lot of man hours to solve can be done with some clever data science solution. And finally, I'll talk about recommendation systems.
Right.
So I definitely see an opportunity here for people who are very deep into recommendation systems. anything you see being recommended to you as a player, anywhere within the touch point of a game or online, is an area for opportunity and growth. So I would say to anyone who maybe isn't interested in those three fields, when you're playing a game, think about how you would use the data that the game is getting from you if you could do any project you wanted. And then I would hop on Kaggle, see what data sets are available. I'm pretty sure there's a
Right.
PUBG data set already available you can play with if you want to play with game data, and then start building your projects. You'd be surprised at the kind of creative things you can come up with once you have your hands on the
Mhm.
data and you just start looking at it. You might really, really surprise yourself with some fun stuff you come up with. And then on your resume, you'll have a project with real game data that you can talk about.
Okay, these are pretty interesting insights. Thanks, Kali, for putting that through. And Jennifer, very nice question. It brings up a lot of topics. And we have a comment here as well. Adam says, except with gaming, it's still all NIH, which is not invented here unless you are hired to program. So, yeah, that's there. Moving on, I have a question for you in terms of the skills and the knowledge areas. What's your take on that? What do you see the most important skills and knowledge areas for a data scientist there, Carly?
Um, so let's talk just like technical skills. My
Yeah.
first and foremost, everything I always harp on and say to learn, because I think it's the easiest, but I think it's the most powerful, is SQL.
True.
It's not going anywhere anytime soon, folks. So if you find yourself hating it, time to change your opinion and start to love it. I used to be really annoyed with SQL when I first started my career. I thought it was kind of a cumbersome language. I've learned to love SQL. It might be a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, but I think it's extremely powerful when you learn how to use it the right way.
Hmm.
So definitely number one, start with SQL. Number two, I think Python is still king. I know R as well, but I think if you want to be a super generalizable data scientist, I would stick to Python. Um, and you can even start there, right? Like the number of free online courses and resources available to learn SQL and Python are like crazy. Like you can just
Right.
start today. If this is your New Year's resolution, like start writing a little bit of SQL. Like I think it will get you really, really far. And then I definitely say, to be a good data scientist and to be a competitive data scientist, statistics is one of those skills you just can't overlook.
Wow.
It might not be your favorite thing. I actually found statistics to be a lot harder when I was in taking math classes than like calculus. I don't know why my brain didn't want to work that way. So it's something you have to train and it's something you have to work at. But I think once you get it, it's worth it because so much data science behind the scenes is just applied
Right.
statistics, right? And when you understand that, you can do almost anything. And then finally, this is not a technical skill, but communication.
Mm.
Please, 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 we're talking about the importance of data storytelling. Being an effective communicator to non-technical people will get you so far in this industry. It will help you in interviews. It will help you when you're trying to get buy-in for your projects at work. It will help you wherever you're at. So if you don't feel comfortable communicating or you feel like you're a little bit shy, that's okay. It just takes practice, but you have to force yourself to practice because it's going to be such a big help.
Okay. So I think these are definitely great skills in the knowledge that you would need to, at least the most important skills. And I couldn't agree more on the data statistics. Learn more and more statistics out there. It will definitely help you.
Yes.
All right. I have a few questions. There's like a flood of questions out there, but
Keep
so
them
I'm just
coming.
trying. Yeah, so I'm just trying to pick the ones very quickly. You're from YouTube, Ladher. Uh, Data analytics industry is rapidly growing. Is computer power in smaller firms growing with the industry? In particular, data analytics companies primarily use real-time social data in real time. So large amounts of data. What do you think, Harley?
So I can't speak for every company. Obviously, I can
Mm,
only speak for the places that I've worked at. But I will say that one of the skills I thought about including that I bumped for communication because I think it's more important. This brings up another good skill is knowing some cloud infrastructure and knowing how to harness cloud computing. I have seen almost every industry switch, even if they were doing some things locally, to working with, just working with cloud providers and doing things on cloud. For a data scientist, I think that this is one of these skills that you just can't fake and you just can't get it anywhere else. You're going to have to do like the AWS certifications if you can't get, the opportunity to learn on the job, but it's going to be so worth it. Because now that companies are moving, to having a lot of redundancy, they're putting their data in the cloud. When they're already paying those fees, the storage fees, they're already paying to have, their servers available on the cloud so that they're always online. It just makes sense to also have the data scientists doing their compute on the cloud. Very rarely do I ever see a data science posting anymore that's going to be kind of like, do this locally on your own machine in Jupyter notebooks, right? It's all going to be distributed. I think that that's the future of the industry, regardless of the company size. And so I do see, even if you're not working with that real-time data, the shift is just going to be to move towards that anyway, so that they're ready if their data volume ever changes. And so it's not going to hurt to learn it, right?
Yep. I definitely say that's the way how we do it. And
Yeah.
we do have another, first of all, because you mentioned about communications, there are so many people who agree that communication skill is so important. So keep that in mind as well. But and Sandy here also mentions about Toastmasters is great to communication skills. Many
Yeah.
chapters are virtual
That's,
now.
yeah, that's a
So
really good point, Sandy.
yeah. So and another one here, Anthony. Okay. So Anthony says, I imagine creating study guides and understanding pros and cons of each statistical technique is necessary for interview prep. I should also think being able to break down complex processes to layman's terms is also measured during the interview, as is speaking the language of business stakeholders. What else should we be mindful of as we prepare for the interviews? Any other tips, Carly?
Well, I mean, Anthony just hit them all, I think, almost. And that also gave me flashbacks to making
Right.
flashcards to try to like memorize. Oh gosh, I'm glad those days are over. But yes, I do think that those are super key, Anthony. Thank you for bringing them up. In terms of other things to prepare for the interview, I'd say that, interviewing is one of those skills that you just get better at the more you do it. And so being calm and comfortable and authentically yourself is going to be really hard when it's your first interview and you're really nervous, but working on that, working on feeling comfortable in your skin, for a technical interview, there's
Right.
nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. I would rather have a candidate say, I'm not sure, but this is how I would figure it out, than make
Right.
something up. And I think that comes also with being comfortable with yourself, with your technical knowledge, not feeling like you have to know everything all the time.
Everything.
But I do see also that interviews are going to need to shift a little bit, because if we're talking about the future of data science as being more of a T shape where people have their specialties, I don't think this general, tell me about this reinforcement learning algorithm, but also tell me about this like obscure unsupervised learning technique is going to be like the best way to assess a potential employee's skills, because who knows all of that stuff? You can't know
No.
everything. And so I do think that interviewing is going to have to shift along with the industry, and
Right.
we'll see how quickly that happens.
Wow, that's so true. And I've been often asked as well that in an interview, should I be, actually, if there are so many questions, data science as a field itself, there could be like the use cases that they might have turned into, the interview prep questions and made case studies out of it. And just the questions could be very interesting. And that's when I'm like, why do you have to know everything? Like
Yeah.
it's not expected. You have your own
Oh.
skill sets, and
Hmm.
you will get in a direction to solve a problem for various projects. If you
Yes.
can work on those projects and apply your skills there, I think that makes sense. If you go over and above, it could be a little dicey when you're in an interview. So it's nothing better than being very straightforward about, you don't know, or maybe this is how you feel about it. So
Yeah.
I feel that's very interesting point there. Okay, we have a very cool and interesting question here from Christine, and she joined from Facebook. So very interesting, Christine Care.
Hey, Kristen.
Uh, so she's asking, when you're playing against the computer, how do they program the computer to play currently?
Oh, this is such an interesting question. Um, it makes me think of chess, right? Like,
Hmm.
how do you play chess against a computer, and how do they gauge the skill of the computer when you're playing? And I honestly like don't know the answer to this. Um, there are a lot of interesting skill methodologies for how you determine the skill of an AI, right? Like
Mhm.
its abilities. And so I would definitely redirect you to the internet to figure out what some different ones are, like true skill, the way that, you know, given any move like on a chessboard, you would, I guess, choose like what would be the ideal move that would end the game most
Mm.
quickly. And then how close was that person to getting the ideal move? Because I guess at some point, chess is kind of a solved game, right? Like a computer could just almost always win unless it's like a grandmaster playing against it. So there's ways to dumb it down so that it doesn't always choose the optimal path, but what does that look like in terms of skill is a super interesting question that I don't think is like that I'm at least not prepared to fully answer because I don't understand it
Yeah.
enough. Um, but yes, I do actually work with someone who I won't call out because I'm not sure if they want the
Mm.
notoriety, who is an expert in skill algorithms and actually like
Wow.
determining based on your opponent's skill and your outcome in facing that person, where you should rank that person's skill level, right? And it's all based
Oh,
on
wow.
interactions between people and where you
Great.
think that they're going to perform and then how they actually perform. And it's very fascinating.
Okay, this is very cool. And I'm sure that's like a game changer algorithm out there. So, thanks for at least letting us know about something like that. So, it's very cool of you. We have another question here from Mike Nash. Very interesting one. Given the rise of low code, no code systems, how do you think this will affect the data science industry roles in the future?
Yeah, that's a super great question. And it actually makes me think of something I was reading that Kristen had said on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
which is that for 2023, she sees that low code, no code solutions are going to get, even more popular.
Hmm.
Um, I think, and I agree with her proposition that it doesn't threaten the data scientist's job, and I don't think it threatens the field of data science. If anything, I see low code and no code solutions as something that will unblock data scientists from the more routine parts of their work, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you need to be like having to hand code like a train test split and kind of like all the other stuff that you end up using the same boilerplate code over and over to achieve? And if you
Hmm.
didn't have to do some of those more routine parts of your job, how much more effective could you be? And what do you think you could be doing instead? Like, what parts of the problem could you be solving that a computer still isn't capable of doing on its own, right? Like we've seen a lot of low code,
Okay.
no code solutions, and they work really well to like maybe get the data into a place where it's usable or even build a good model with good hyperparameter tuning. But still the interpretability of the results, how to apply it to the actual business problem at hand, how to get buy-in from stakeholders and explain what you think is going on and contextualize the data and contextualize the output hasn't been automated. So the data
Mhm.
scientists who really like thrive in that realm, who are good storytellers, right? Who are good at that part of their job, I think we'll find that these low code solutions are just going to unblock the boring parts of their job and let them do the cool stuff even faster.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are great insights. Thanks for sharing, Carly. And good question, Mike. I'm just looking at so many questions here, just trying to figure out which ones. A good comment here by Jennifer. Elden Ring's adaptive AI is more forgiving than the older Dark Souls games. So, but man, if it is still doesn't take me for a while. So
That's
that's
always
very
so fun.
cool. All right, let's. jump on to another quick question here in terms of, obviously we were talking about the 2023 and the trends, but just to, bring it forward in terms of the prediction, like what are your predictions, Kali, in terms of three predictions that you could give out in the data category that would be like super hot? I know it's very difficult. There are so many things. There's so much data consumption and so much content consumption that we do every day, and then we kind of get confused ourselves. But would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, that's a super good question. Okay, let me think. So the first thing that comes to mind is generative AI. So,
Mm,
we've seen the rise of these large language models, these foundation models like ChatGPT. I think that honestly, of anything that happened in 2022, like that has the potential to completely
mm,
transform the way that people work, and not just in data science. I think like everywhere. Like I think that we're living through a time where people are going to look back and be like, holy crap, that changed everything. Um, and so I see that, the future for these big diffusion models, the future for these large language models is pretty much like unbounded. And it's just the
mhm.
way that we leverage them and use them, and the way that, they're actually unleashed on the public is going to change like the future of how we work. Um, so we also kind of touched on this at the beginning because I was talking about Vin, who's someone I really admire. And I think that
Yep.
data strategy is going to be um, a data category that's going to be super hot because we've had so many years of kind of unrestricted growth for
Right.
data careers, for data organizations, that the money flow let us get away with being a little bit less strategic. So now that we look to a future where people are kind of tightening their belts, I think that data strategy is going to be even more important, trying to figure out how do you make your teams the most efficient, how do you make your systems the most efficient, right? All of this
True.
coming under a strategic banner of maybe the rise of the data strategy leader, right? I think is going to be really cool. And
Yep.
then finally, probably because of the people I follow and who I admire so much, like Zach Wilson and Ben, Seattle data guy, I'd say data engineering is still
Mm,
super hot. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think that 2022 saw data engineering just kind of like continuing to make a splash. I see so many of my friends call themselves like reformed data scientists. Now they're data
exactly.
engineers. And I think that's going to keep happening as people realize that what they love about data science tends to be more on the engineering side. And I think this ties really well with the idea of the data strategy, because without a good data engineering pipeline, without a really, really tight architecture, I don't think that you're going to have, the kind of operational efficiency maybe that companies want.
Okay. Yeah, I think these are pretty straightforward three great data categories that could be super hot. I'm keeping it on record: generative AI, data strategy, and data engineering. And I couldn't agree more with all three because those were on my mind as well. Like not just these three, but there are a few more which I'll keep it
Which
for
ones will
other
you
time.
add? Just give us one. Give us one.
Okay, so if I have to, pick one, to be honest, in not being biased at all, but I've worked with a lot of data observability companies out there,
Oh, that's a good
and
one.
it's something which is picking rapidly. I know for a
Mhm.
fact where data engineers want to also get closer to data observability, where they can get those notifications, where they can, easily build those
Yes.
pipelines very quickly and understand and not sit on data for hours and hours. But it
Yes.
also focuses a lot on data reliability, data quality. So I feel that that's gonna pick up really well. It will be another hot topic, and uh, I can give one more out of excitement, which is
Okay.
about the data contracts and Chad Sanderson talks a
Oh,
lot around that as well. So that's these are two I feel could be definitely picking up. But I like your data predictions, generative AI, definitely Chat GPT. We've seen so much craze around it. The internet is all around chat gpt. I've tried it myself, played so much. I do it every day. I try to ask some funny questions. So
It's so
either
fun.
I can make fun of it, but it still is so powerful. That's what is my experience, at
Yeah.
least. And can't wait to see. But do you play around with chat gpt, and if yes, what do you ask?
I actually was just joking with my friends yesterday. I was like, ChatGPT is my therapist. It's free.
Yeah.
It's so fun. No, I've actually been playing around asking it for, like, I love seeing people talk about like finding LinkedIn hooks. So I haven't used it to write anything yet, but I do like asking it, like, how would you intro this kind of paper, or how would you write an interesting hook for this kind of post? And it's fascinating to me that, like, the way that it uses language that is not cumbersome or awkward, like so many other generative kind of like language models can be. To me, it's
Exactly.
very incredible how it can almost read like a well-trained journalist. Like it's
Exactly.
fascinating.
Very true. One example that I actually also saw was around a doctor, and I don't know if you've already read. Like, I'm sure many of those who are on the call right now, they must have read this in an article where it's a senior doctor. I don't want to name the doctor, but he goes out and obviously types in about something which is very complex about a
Uh-huh.
patient, and he got an answer out there which was exactly something what he does or what he consults, and he was shocked with that because with at least an experience of 20 years, 25 years, ChatGPT actually went out and gave him the answers which he
Wow.
had after 25 years. So it could be that powerful as well. So I think it's in the growth phase. It will definitely have a lot of iterations. It will also have a lot of commercialization which will kind of take
Yes,
place, but it's exciting space. At least let's enjoy until it's free, and then we'll see how it kind of goes.
exactly. It won't be free
Awesome.
forever.
Yeah, so true. So okay, so we spoke about obviously the trends, the predictions. You mentioned about a lot of things around the the day as a data scientist. What skills do you need to have? I wanted to also touch a little on the job front and the job opportunities. So what would be some of your some tips that you would like to share about finding job opportunities and standing out as a candidate in the data science field? Because I think in this at least in this space right now where we are in terms of the economic downturn, it could be very interesting for a lot of folks as well.
So I totally agree. I think that, we've talked about one, that like finding opportunities, the best way to do this, I think, is networking. I can't overstate how important it is to build up a good network of people around you, even if it's just other people trying to break into data science, right? You're going through it together. But once you have this solid network of people, as you all go in your careers and you get, higher up, you'll be able to help each other more, right? And I think finding a network of people that you trust, building up a network of people, it's hard and awkward, but it really, really, really pays off. And always giving back to that network when you can, right? When you're early in your
Exactly.
career, you'll feel like you're taking a lot because you don't have a lot to give. And so it's important as you move up to start giving us, excuse me, start giving back and start
Yeah.
making sure that, you're helping other people. You're not pulling up the ladder behind you, so to speak, right? Um, I would say that for finding jobs, I sound like a shill, but I love LinkedIn Jobs. I think that it's extremely powerful. I like it more than like Indeed or other platforms. I think that it has good insights. It makes applying really easy. And so I would say definitely stick on there. Find out, when you see a job get posted that looks interesting to you, apply quickly. You don't want to be, one of 1,000 applicants after a month. You want to find it in the first day. And so I always set my
Exactly.
search parameters to jobs posted in the last 24 hours and just refresh. You can also set up
Yeah.
notifications for when a new job pops up with your search parameters. That's super powerful. I would say definitely do that if you're actively searching. Um, and finally, I guess for standing out as a candidate, this is kind of an out of left field thing, but I
Mhm.
wanted to talk a little bit about this psychology phenomenon called mirroring. And what it is that, you know, we as human beings are meant to be social, right? And we have a tendency to mirror other people who we admire or mirror other people when we're talking to them. And what's interesting about mirroring is that it seems to be a way for people to adapt, to be accepted by the group, because as you are mirrored, you have a tendency to like a person who's mirroring you more, right? And
Right.
so, knowing this, what I would say to stand out as a job seeker is look at the language of the job posting and mirror that in your resume. So, if you're applying
Mm,
somewhere like Spotify, that's really fun. If you read their job postings, they're quirky and they use a lot of fun language. They want you to know the culture of working there is going to be exciting and probably a little less stuffy than like a bank.
right.
Mirror that in your resume. Use some of their language back at them. You might find that the person that wrote the job posting, when they start to see themselves reflected in the way you talk about yourself, they might have a little bit more of an affinity for you as long as you're
Wow.
being still authentic to yourself. But I'd say that that's a tip for me that has actually worked really well.
Okay, these are fantastic tips. Definitely, I think you mentioned about just mirroring your CV into something which is like the job description. It's
Yeah.
totally I totally hear you because that's like your breaking point into at least getting the first step, getting
Yes.
started or getting seen by the recruiter
Yes.
themselves. That okay, this is the language, this is the person. Like if I take an example where as a community evangelist, if I go out there, if I'm not outspoken, if I don't go
Uh
to
huh.
meetups, or if I don't go to various other places, and if I'm not making it that cool in my CV,
Uh
I
huh.
think it wouldn't match to something which is a role around community manager. So I think definitely these are important points out there. So thanks for that, Carly. Other thing, we have a few comments here. One is here from Suzanne. So she's like, just read the job description first, be sure of it. So thanks for that, Suzanne. And then we have one comment here from YouTube, from Karen. Hi, very interesting conversation about this question. I think having a good network helps, but yeah, yes, but also showing what you're capable to do. Definitely, because you, in the end, obviously, you also need those skills to,
Yes.
get the ball rolling. So all good there. In terms of, let me quickly check more questions here. All right, so I don't miss out on questions. I know we are almost time, but I'm kind of enjoying this, Carly, and we have so many questions, and you have such amazing insights. So
Yeah.
just
Let's keep
being
it going.
yeah, and just want to pick one comment here again from Sandy is like, just be careful. I used to trust LinkedIn, but recently had a scam job offer to a job I applied to via LinkedIn, received contract from email address of hiring manager that was on LinkedIn. Oh my god, that's
Yeah, that's
yeah, so
scary. I
yeah,
would say to Sandy, that's a really, really great point. I think that
yeah,
LinkedIn is super powerful, but you also need to cross-reference that the job exists on the career website that you're applying for. So if it seems too good to be true, it seems a little suspicious, go straight to the actual career website for the company. If you can't find anything, odds are it's someone impersonating someone. I've definitely seen a rise in this recently as well, and it's really, really unfortunate. So you got to just be smart, do your due diligence.
yeah,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
exactly. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. One very important question here from Kate is, let's take this one. Kate is asking if you were stranded on a desert island and could only bring the three data science tool with you, which ones would you choose and why? Very interesting question.
Does it have to be a technology? Because I think I'd have to bring at least my mechanical keyboard or one of them. I would rather die on a desert island than use my MacBook Monarch keyboard or whatever it's called. It's the worst. I hate it.
All
Um,
right.
for the tools, okay, so this is a really, really good question, Kate. Let me think. Oh gosh. So number one, I still really love Plotly. I know it's like not free anymore, or you can kind of get it free, but not really. But I think it's so, so powerful for building visualizations. As we talk about
Mm,
data storytelling, right? Like it doesn't have to be Plotly, but find a visualization tool that you love, that you feel like you can harness the power of as a data
mhm.
scientist, because you're going to need it. You can't just stop at building tables and have that be the end.
Right.
You need to be able to build compelling visualizations that are beautiful. I actually have, no, not in here.
Mhm.
Storytelling with Data is an amazing book. It's really, really good. I would highly recommend that as well.
Yeah.
Um, I also really like tools to help with explainable machine learning. And so I'm thinking of like packages like Shapley values help you really dig into finding like the output of your model and like what it's telling you and why, and like directionally it helps you figure out really like with your predictor what does each of your features look like. And I think that's super powerful too. So maybe Plotly, Shapley, and my mechanical keyboard, and I think I'd be okay.
Okay. That's very cool. And it's not you just in the party, but also we have Christine. She has a mechanical keyboard out there. We see Monica. She has a mechanical keyboard and she's hooked as
It's the
well.
best.
So, so cool. Another follow-up question could be actually what Kate mentioned. What three people would you bring? Uh, okay, but that okay. I'll just add something more to the question. If you have to actually suggest three of the data leaders or creators or any of those folks, who would these three people be? It could
How
be
do
on
I
LinkedIn,
pick my
Twitter, any.
favorites? It's like picking your favorite kids. You don't want to do it. Um, okay, so I'd definitely say number one is Zach Wilson. I'd have to bring Zach. I love Zach. You know, he helped me a lot. He was my mentor coming up on
Wow,
LinkedIn, and helped me really, like, I think, get to where I'm at today. And so, you know, he's
amazing.
always great for conversation, so many good insights, just a great person in general. So I'd say
Yeah,
Zach for sure.
yeah.
I'd also have to say Vin, because I find myself repeating his advice so much that I just should be like a Vin spokesperson. Like I talk about things that he's told me so much because he is like the epitome of a
Awesome.
strategic data leader. He's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Um, and then I think you for
Oh
sure
wow.
because we have fun and you're
We
awesome. And
have
like,
fun. We totally
you have
have fun. Like,
you have great insights and you've built up such a good community on LinkedIn. I think just with like your personality and you're real and you're authentic. And that's what I like in the people around me is when they're real and authentic.
oh wow, thank you very much. But definitely, I agree on Zach in Win for sure. I've spoken to Win so much. He's fantastic. He writes so much. I'm on his Substack everywhere. People need
Yes.
to, learn more about him, what he does, and
His
roll call
Substack is
quotes.
great.
He's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely great. And one person I do, always mention about is Kate. She's in
Oh,
the,
Kate. I
Kate is
love
amazing.
Kate.
She's an inspiration for being authentic at least.
She is. She
So
is.
so just
And
a
an
few people
inspiration for women in
definitely.
the field. She's so good.
Yeah,
She's so good.
exactly. Awesome. But that's amazing. All right. I know we are almost close to time, but one last comment here, and this is from Jennifer. Late to the GPT chat,
Oh.
finally, but so far super helpful to refine my resume for an industry change.
Oh,
Wow.
I love that. That's awesome, Jennifer.
Yeah, this is another one, very interesting how people have, also utilized Chat GPT for something which is very unique. And at the same time, if someone wants to learn about different, say, top tools or anything, I think Chat GPT is the place where you can
Yes.
get the list, all of those things you can start with. You
It
can get the
knows
most basic
everything.
things and do amazing stuff there. So that's there. All right. I know, Carly. This is super short. I can't wait to obviously do another part with you on the Ravit Show. It could be around different topics, but you have shared amazing insights around data science trends, around how to break into this field, how to in this economic downturn, how to just stand out You've shared amazing insights. Thank you very much once again. One last question before we wrap this up is about if people have more questions, and I couldn't take all the questions, but I'm sure people want to reach out to you and
Yes.
ask questions. So, which is the best place they can follow your content? They can also learn about you. And I guess you also started with your Instagram. So I would also want to learn more about it. This is one big
Yes.
announcement. So can you just give us all these places where people can follow, ask you questions? If you have a newsletter, people can follow too, and I'm sure the new Instagram.
Absolutely, yes. So find me on LinkedIn first and foremost, Carly Taylor.
Oh,
I am 0017, I think is the URL, but you'll see me.
wow.
How many Carly Taylors can there possibly be? I guess there's a lot of us. Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place to follow me for now. It's where I will be announcing my Instagram, so you can go follow me over there. The Instagram is going to be really exciting. I'm trying to branch out into other forms of content. I've really been kind
Nice.
of text heavy because that's the way I like to write. But I'm trying to get into more like videos and shorter form content so I can interact with people more and so I can reach more
Hmm.
people and have more conversations. So I will be announcing the Instagram soon on my LinkedIn. I'm really excited for
Wow.
that. You can also find me at rebeldatascience.com. And that's where you can get in touch with me. You can book one-on-one meetings with me. You can send me emails,
Awesome.
really anything that you need. I'm here to help. And this was so great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carly, for being the first guest of 2023 on the Ravit Show. And
Yes.
thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This was pretty interesting, great questions. And thanks again for all the support. And this was a blast. Thank you.
Yay. Thanks, everyone.